as I said, I'm very thankful for the organizers for giving me this opportunity. And as Sir was reading about my profile, I am actually basically a person who works in machine learning and computational biology. My area of research was in computational biology, and basically I have done my PhD also in agriculture. And right now I have been doing so much of work with respect to agriculture only, because I have a little passion about agriculture, because my work in PhD was in rice, and then now I have been doing my students some projects with regard to yield prediction and some NLPs and all with regard to agriculture. So always agriculture is something which I'm always crazy about. So when this particular topic, ma'am was talking to me whether you can handle it. So though I'm not very much confident about IoT, but I'm always interested to use IoT in agriculture, and already I'm planning to write a project in precision farming. So definitely I thought it will be a very good topic which I'll try to introduce to you. So already I just saw the different sessions which you already had for the last 2 days, I feel 6th and 7th, and today also. So you have heard a lot about IoTs, and also I think you had a session of data analytics in IoT and various things you have heard about IoT. So what I thought was, in today's session, I'll again touch upon IoT area, because our session is on IoT in agriculture. So now when we think about the smart agriculture or smart farming, there are lots and lots of topics which has to be covered about. Okay, so maybe because when we think about smart agriculture or smart farming, we'll be basically thinking about the connection of IoT. That is IoT in agriculture. But then when you say about IoT in agriculture, there are many things. You have definitely, there are so many sensors involved. Then you have the one which is actually reading those input from sensors. Then you have cloud computing, because the data goes to cloud. It need not go to cloud all the time, but then those are also involved. Then you have the data analytics part. There are so many things, and basically when you have a project or something which you are doing with respect to IoT in agriculture, I think so many people of different categories will be involved, because there will be a person who is good in something, who can work on Arduino, Raspberry Pi, or somebody who is good in, like as this electronics department, who are good in this sensors and all. Then you have this cloud computing people, because you have to manage data at cloud. So there are so many people who will be involved in the whole of it. So what I planned was, in today's session, actually I have around 80 slides, which actually I have touched upon each and every part of IoT. I hope so. Which actually have to be connected with IoT. You have to think about all this when you're trying to implement IoT in agriculture, like whatever a small area which you are taking, but what are the different things which you have to think upon. So concept of IoT, I think already it must have been introduced, but I'll just touch upon, because I cannot directly go to the concerned part. So a little bit about IoT. Then what I'll do is I'll touch upon some of the major applications in agriculture, which IoT has been linked with. Then there are so many new agricultural practices in today's farming, which where we can use IoT. And definitely, what are the different equipments and technologies? So this will have a lot of, I have to say a lot of things about this major equipment and technology, which will be used in IoT. And then finally, I'll be touching upon UAVs, or nothing but drone in agriculture. So these are the different things which I thought of touching upon in today's class. So since you have heard about many things about IoT, now if you are planning to write a project in IoT, or if you're trying to implement IoT in agriculture, so what are the various things which you have to look upon? So IoT as such has been already explained, I hope so. From the first day itself, you have been hearing about this IoT. It is nothing but internetworking of physical devices, right? There are so many connections of There are so many networking of physical devices, something which makes a self-configuring network. And here, basically in IoT, it has the ability to transfer data, right? It is taking the data, like if it is sensors and all, it is taking the data from the sensors or whatever is the input technology which you are using. It takes the data over a network and doesn't require any human interaction. So that is the best part of it. And if you talk about IoT, is present and future of every field impacting everyone's life. So here we are basically talking about IoT in agriculture, but IoT is touching upon every part of life, which will actually making everything intelligent, we can say. So this is just an example, like what are the various areas where IoT is touched upon. So you can see IoT is touched with respect to home appliances, with respect to city, then shopping, flights, etc. So you have lots and lots of areas, almost all the areas which are touched upon IoTs. So the picture is not very clear, but then just to show you like what are the different areas where IoT is involved. Now, it has a crucial role of transforming traditional technology from home offices to next generation everywhere computing. So it is something like it is transforming the old one to new one. So something which was like the traditional technology, as we will be talking about with respect to agriculture. So whatever we were doing in the traditional one is now changed with respect to this precision agriculture, or whatever with respect to IoT. So if you look upon the different, I have already told you that IoT is being touched upon in variety of areas. So one of the most researched area we can say is in agriculture, and I think in India it has to come upon, like people are just exploring it and it is coming on, but still it's a long time to go for that. Now, because it is really crucial sector to ensure the food security as the global population is increasing rapidly. So that is another important thing why we have to think about IoT, because we have to ensure the food security. I'll be talking about this food security thing or transportation of food, etc. at the end of the slides, because that is a crucial thing why actually we are forced to look upon this particular IoT. Now, agricultural products need applications like soil moisture monitoring, environmental condition monitoring for temperature, moisture, etc. So many things are there. So all this we can manage through IoT. So this is about precision agriculture. We say that it's said that future of agriculture is precision agriculture. Okay, doing something precisely. Okay, that precision has to be maintained while we are doing any kind of farming, and it is expected to grow at 4 billion by 2020. So data generated from sensors on agriculture field can also be used for data analytics, which will help farmers to improve crop yields. So as we said, the data collected from drone or sensors or whatever it is, so even huge amount of real-time data is collected. So we can do data analytics on that. We can do machine learning on that. So I hope it was already covered. So data analytics is a major part. So when we do machine learning, we know, because basically I am a person who works in machine learning. So in machine learning, we require huge amount of data. Okay, that is particularly when we are working with deep learning. So here also huge amount of data is generated too. So definitely when we have huge amount of data, we can do data analytics on that, and we can create a prediction model. So basically for yield prediction or like disease or whatever it is. So here we have huge amount of data which is getting generated, and those can be used for developing different models. So IoT based smart farming can solve many agricultural based issues. So many issues are there which manually, if you start doing it, it becomes unmanageable because the farm is too big. So it becomes unmanageable to manage manually. So definitely we need to mechanize that, and IoT based smart farming is one way of doing it. So this is just, we'll be talking more about this different tools and technologies which I've already mentioned in my first line, the outline, which I said what are the different things which I'm going to deal about. So these are the various, just I have touched the tools of smart farming. So one is sensors. Okay, definitely we require sensors. Then we require the networking part, which is called the telecommunication technologies. Okay, then we require the hardware and software, because if you for particular application and for allowing IoT based solutions, we'll definitely require certain hardware. For example, if you require Arduino and all that hardware part, and definitely what are the softwares required for doing the data analytics part. So data analytics tool, then that is if you have to build prediction models, like if you want to predict with respect to the data which we are getting. So for that, we require the different machine learning tools or machine learning algorithms, you could say. So then finally, satellites and drones for gathering data. Okay, so for gathering data around the clock for an entire field. So this is now sensors are doing a particular, like if suppose we want to do a temperature sensing, it is doing temperature sensing. So, but then satellites and drones are gathering data around the clock for an entire field. If suppose we have a satellite or drone, but why drone in particular, or why satellite not used all the time? We'll see all those things later. So these are tools of smart farming. Okay, we'll be coming into that later in detail. Now, application of IoT in agriculture. So when you say IoT in smart farming, so what are the various areas? So I have just touched upon certain area, because all the areas, whatever we have in farming, we can use IoT over there. So first one I have mentioned is soil sampling and mapping. So here, our main objective will be the analysis of the soil. So when you say analysis of the soil, you have to measure the nutrients which are available in the soil. So some soil will be lacking magnesium, some will be lacking calcium. So whatever it is, so we have to find out the lack of it, and then we have to supply the corresponding nutrients. So soil mapping opens the door to sowing different crop varieties in a specific field to better match soil properties. So this actually, when you do the soil mapping, then we can actually make out like which particular crop is suitable for which soil, and seed suitability, what is the what time the seed has to be sowed, etc. Even the planting depth. Okay, because even when you plant, for example, the coconut plant, the depth actually matters. Okay, so how much depth has to be, so all these are important concerns. So sensors and vision based technologies are helpful to decide the distance and depth for sowing the seed efficiently. So if all this, so here when we do it manually, we can do it. But when we do manually one or two, we can do it. But when we have to do in a big farm, in acres of farm, then definitely we'll require something, IoT kind of devices, where actually we can the sensors or whatever we are using, we can actually tell that like how much depth has to be done, or how much the distance between two different plants has to be. So all this can be managed with respect to an IoT device. So next one is irrigation, very important. After sowing the plants, the next thing comes is irrigation. So we have the different kind of irrigation methods like drip irrigation, sprinkler irrigation, etc. So here again, very important concern is water. So you know water is very precious. There are areas where you have water scarcity. So how much to irrigate? Unnecessarily giving water to a plant also is waste, and that may affect badly also. And there are cases when there is water shortage, so that is also a problem. So even excess of water is always a problem. So this all will lead to reduced soil nutrients and will provoke different microbial infection. That is, if suppose you are supplying more of water. So here always you should have some kind of regulation. Now how do you regulate? You can use different sensors for that. So a significant increase in crop efficiency is expected with the use of IoT based techniques, like for example, this is one just example given, crop water stress index based irrigation management. So in this CWSC based irrigation management, actually you are controlling the amount of water to be given, etc. So there actually with respect to the crop water based index, you can manage that. Now next important thing which you can talk about is fertilizer. So you have sowed the seed and you have irrigated it. Next comes fertilizer. So this is a natural or chemical substance that can provide important nutrients for growth and fertility of plants. So here again, you have the different concerns for plants, like the macronutrients. So sometimes it may be deficient with respect to nitrogen, sometimes phosphorus, sometimes potassium. So this NPK always matters. The level of different macronutrients always matters. So which nutrient is deficient, or applying them improperly, all can be harmful for the plant health. So this has to be very much taken care of. Now, with respect to IoT, all this can be regulated. The fertilization under smart agriculture helps to precisely estimate the required dose of nutrients, ultimately minimizing the negative effects. So if suppose manually you are putting, so always there are chances that you may put more or less. But when you are using technology, definitely you can have the measurement given over there, and based on the with respect to sensors, when you are measuring the quantity of nutrients which has to be supplied, always it is you can regulate the amount of nutrients which has to be given. So IoT-based fertilizing approaches helps to estimate the spatial patterns of nutrient requirements with a higher accuracy and minimal labor requirements. So there is no labor charge over here, because you are not at all using labor to supply that nutrients. You are using IoT-based approaches. Okay. Then another one is called this normalized difference vegetation index, which actually uses aerial or satellite images to monitor crop nutrient status. Okay, so this is actually monitoring the nutrient status, and based on that, the nutrients can be supplied. Now, another application we can say is crop disease and pest management. Very important, because you know that always crops, as same in the case of humans, also are affected with the different diseases. And then you have to find what are the different pests which are actually attacking. So one example given here is this Irish potato famine, where in this famine, lots of people were died. And here actually, this is a particularly problem of crop failure, and which is caused by the potato blight disease. Okay, so here most of the pesticides, like basically pesticides, yes, it is needed for the plant, but then too much of pesticide is also a problem. So, and it is harmful to human and animal health. So here, and when you use actually more of this pesticides, definitely it is going to contaminate the ecosystem also. Now, if you use this IoT-based devices, such as wireless sensors or robots or drones, these can be used by the growers to put pesticides or slash pesticides significantly for spotting crop enemies. So using drones, by taking the images of the different plants, we can find out whether they are affected by the disease, or which disease is it. By doing the image processing method, we can find out the different disease causes, and then we can spray whatever pesticide required. So generally, the reliability of the crop disease monitoring and pest management depends on three aspects: sensing, evaluating, and treatment. That is, you have to find it. That is, you take the picture of it, then you evaluate what kind of disease is, and then go for the treatment. So advanced disease and pest recognition approaches are based on image processing, as I said, in which raw images are acquired, and then they have to be studied. The pictures are acquired through sensors or UAVs or whatever, and then they are studied or detected and finally treated. Then another one we can say is yield monitoring, which is another important concern in an important application of IoT. So this is basically a mechanism to analyze various aspects corresponding to agriculture yield. It could be with respect to grain mass flow, moisture content, etc. And this yield quality, when you talk about this yield quality, you know that yield quality could be depending on various factors. So it could be sufficient pollination with good quality pollen when predicting seed yields under changing environmental conditions. So you have to, so yield quality, so definitely yield depend upon the quality of the plant. Okay, so we have to always be monitoring the different plants with respect to the diseases and all. If just a minute, it's not moving. Slides are not moving. Just hold on. Hello, I'm audible, right?
Yes,
Hello. but it got stuck. The slides are not moving. Just hold on. I don't know what to do. If I say Control Alt Delete, just a minute. Okay, just hold on. It got stuck. I don't know how. Just hold on. I'll just I'll just close this and come again. I'm not able to move it, and nothing is happening.
Just stop sharing and then.
Yeah, stop. Yeah, okay. I'll just stop share. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I'll share it again. Okay. Yes. I hope it's visible now. It's visible, no? Okay. Fine. Okay, so we were in this particular slide, yes. So yield monitoring and yield quality. So yield quality definitely depend upon the monitoring of the plants. So predicting the right harvesting time not only helps to maximize the crop quality, but also provides an opportunity to adjust the management strategy. So if suppose the yield is not good, so you have to change the management strategy. Like what are the different methods which you're applying for getting the better yield, so that kind of management strategy has to be applied. So yield quality and yield prediction goes together. So crop forecasting is an art to predict the yield and production in terms of tons or hectare before the harvest takes place. So here you can forecast the crop also, like how much crop will be harvested. So those can be forecasted depending upon the production of the crop. So although harvesting is the last stage of this process, proper scheduling can make a clear difference. So initially itself, you have to do the management properly. That is, you have to do the irrigation, everything as we have started by sowing the seed. It starts from there. The whole management has to be very clear, and the better management strategy will definitely help to get more harvest. So this is just an IoT based farm area network. So here you can see how many sensors has been used, and from this information it is going to the cloud. And so this is just a farm area network, just roughly shown. Okay, now so these are different. We were just talking about the some of the different applications of agriculture, applications where IoT can be applied. Now I'll be touching upon the new advanced agricultural practices where IoT can be applied. So these are something which now greenhouse farming, if you talk about, we can say it is one of the oldest method of smart farming. Okay, something which has been used in smart farming from very long time. And I hope you must have seen the greenhouse. So here the success and production of various crops which are done using this greenhouse farming is under a controlled environment, and it may depend upon so many factors, like how the shed is structured, the covering material which has been used to control wind effects, ventilation system, decision support system. So all this, it matters. So here this entire thing matters when you are trying to produce some crop in this particular system. So precise monitoring of environment parameters is the most critical task in modern greenhouses. So precise monitoring of environment parameters, and this is the place where we can apply this IoT. So there are several measurement points of various parameters which are required to control. So you must be wondering like why I'm telling all this. See, for example, if you are planning to implement IoT, now which part of the area you can implement? That is what I'm trying to cover. Like IoT can be implemented in various sectors in agriculture, right? So now which part? What are the different applications? So I have just told you some applications. So these are some of the applications where you can touch upon. Then another thing is like if in the advanced agricultural practices. So here I'll be just touching upon greenhouse, hydroponic, aquaponic, etc. So all are the new agricultural practices which are currently worked upon. So these are the other areas where IoTs can work. So here when we say greenhouse farming, it is very simple. You have to just structure a shed, and then you have to cover the material so that you can control wind, light, etc. So, but then here, this, as we said, precise monitoring of the parameters, environmental parameters. So those are very, very important. How do you control those different parameters? So definitely using an IoT, there's different sensors or the different the technologies or whatever we'll be using with respect to IoT, those equipments, whatever we are using, all those matters. So another important, so I don't know whether you have heard about this vertical farming. This is also basically it is used in cities where you don't have enough space. Okay, so basically these are here you have the different crops which are usually they are done in stacks. So vertical farming in the form of urban agriculture offers an opportunity to stack the plants in a more controlled environment, resulting in significant reduction in resource consumption, because you don't have resources. Resources, when I say, it would be like the amount of land required. So if you take in the case of cities, people who are staying in small houses, they may not have enough land to do agriculture, okay, or farming. So there they can try vertical farming. So vertical farming where actually you have stacks and you are planting the plants in the stacks. Now, by following this method, we can increase the production multiple times. Also, as only a fraction of ground surface is required. So as I said, you may not have enough big farms or hectares or acres of land you may not have. You may have a very limited space, but in that limited space, you are trying to do as much of farming as possible. So here human hands are not required to, so when we use this IoT, human hands are not required to touch the crops at any stage when following the IoT connected vertical farm. So when we are trying to use this particular system, vertical farming with respect to IoT connected vertical farming, you don't have to use your hands at all, because you are controlling the every parameters, whatever is required for vertical farming with respect to IoT. So this is an answer to meet the challenges of land and water shortage. Okay, so basically when you have, particularly in the cities where you have shortage of land and shortage of water, there vertical farming will play a major role. Another one is like hydroponics. No, a lot of people are using this hydroponics. Now, hydroponic is basically a system, a subset of hydroculture in which you try to grow the plants without soil. That again in cities where you don't have much of soil, because you have to buy soil, etc. So at that time you can try hydroponics. So in hydroponics again, you are not using soil, but you are using water. So here, how do you use it? So it is based on an irrigation system in which balanced nutrients are dissolved in water. So whatever, because definitely when you are growing a crop, it may require nutrients, right? Because you are not supplying soil. So the nutrients which has to come from soil, you have to supply them from outside. So how do you do that? So here basically what they do is they try to dissolve those nutrients which are required for the crop in water, and crop roots stay in that solution. So the crop roots which require that nutrients, so this at that particular point, this water will stay in that particular area. So in some cases, roots can be supported by medium like perlite or gravel. So those can be used at certain in some point of time. So here you are not supplying the nutrients from soil, but you are supplying it outside, and you are trying to dissolve those in water. So under this application, the precision of nutrient measurement is very crucial. That is, that again, you cannot put these different nutrients from your imagination. You have to have the correct amount of nutrients. So that again, you can control those with respect to the different sensors which are available using IoT. So you can use IoT based hydroponics. Then I forgot to put another slide of aquaponics, where actually the aquaponic, when you say, it is something, so not aquaponics, sorry, aeroponics, in where you don't have water as well as soil. Okay, so there is basically aeration, and you try to supply the nutrients to aeration. So that again is another area where again IoT also plays a major role in all these areas. In all this system, when you talk about, it is the measurement of nutrients or measurement of the supply of nutrients, whatever you are giving, it plays a major role. So you can control the amount of nutrients supplied with respect to the different devices which are connected to the IoT. Another one is like phenotyping is another area which I don't think it has much come upon. Now here this is an emerging crop engineering which links plant genomics with its physiology and agronomy. So phenotyping means the way it behaves, okay, the physical characteristics of whatever we are trying to study upon. So the progress in molecular and genetic tools for various crop breeding was significant in the last. So here basically we are studying the characteristic of the different crops, and based on the characteristics we can identify that yes, this crop um, is having if suppose it can grow in uh, water, or if it is basically we are trying to study the gene in that particular plant, whether it is we can say like for example, if suppose there are so many plants like rice, you can say take the example of rice which grow in water. Okay, there's sometimes or some in submergence, that is rice which grow in submergence. There are certain rices which grow in drought. So all, if you study the phenotype of these plants, it may be different. So it is because of these different genetics, the different genes which are present in all this. So research investigation conclude that plant phenotyping can be highly beneficial to investigate the quantitative characteristics. Okay, so that actually tells, for example, rice which grows in drought, a rice which grows in submergence. So the genetic characteristic of both of them will be different. So if you are able to identify the gene which is responsible for that particular trait, like in a drought or in submergence, then we can use that, and then we can try that in hydroponic, or we can try that in greenhouse. So, so such as those who are responsible for its growth, yield, quality and quantity, resistance capability, etc., and which can handle various stresses. So those can be studied with respect to this phenotyping, and we can identify those genes, and that could be used for implanting in other plants. So furthermore, an IoT-based phenotypic platform can be designed to monitor the crop and relevant trait measurement that can provide facility for crop breeding and digital agriculture. So we can use for that crop breeding. We can identify the different genes which are responsible for that particular trait, and that can be used for crop breeding and digital agriculture. So this particular field, this IoT-based phenotyping is not used very much, but it is another area where another area which can come upon. Okay, so till now we have talked about the different applications in agriculture, and the what do you say, what are the new adventures in agriculture. Now I'll be talking about something like major equipments and technologies. When you because even when I was even I knew about some kind of sensors, but when I explored about this, I was also wonderstruck, like this much of sensors are available. So you have actually lots and lots of sensors which could be used in the different areas of smart farming. So different from ancient farming, if you look at the modern agriculture now, modern agriculture are being done by heavy and urban equipment such as tractors, harvesters, and other robots. Now, if you look at this now farming for some time back, we had all this like tractors, harvesters, robots, etc. But they were fully or partially supported by remote sensing and other communication technologies. We were not fully relying on that. Now, since we are talking about something called precision agriculture with respect to IoT, precision agriculture. Now here, as we were talking about the different applications of agriculture, like sowing the plants, irrigating the plants, then applying the fertilizers, when to harvest, etc. When all these particular things are done, are performed, the operating vehicles are equipped with GPS and GIS facilities. Okay, so presently in the precision agriculture, the tractors or whatever we are using, all these vehicles, all these equipments are equipped with GPS and GIS facilities so that they can work precisely site specifically, and autonomously. See, that's what is precision agriculture. In precision agriculture, everything should be precise. Where do we have to sow the plants? What is the distance which has to be maintained between sowing the plants? How much fertilizer has to be applied? Is it drip irrigation, or they need a lot of water, or they need less water, or water requirement is over? And once the crop grows, when the harvesting has to be done, and what is the yield which is coming out of it? So all this has to be measured properly. So for this, definitely the one which we are using, we need some GPS or GIS facilities where we can measure all this. Okay, all this has to be measured, particularly in the precision agriculture. The success of precision agriculture is based on the accuracy of collected data, which is usually done in two ways. So now precision agriculture, so once we do the sowing, the irrigation, fertilizer, etc. So then we have to start collecting the data. For example, if you have to do yield prediction, how do we do the yield prediction? Already you have understood a little about data analytics in machine learning. So we need data. So once you have the data collected from this drone or whatever, we have the data in our hand. When we have data in our hand, what are the next thing which we have to do? Definitely we have to do data pre-processing, and then we have to start building the model. We have to use the algorithm and start building the model. And with that model, we'll be able to predict the yield of that particular year. So first entails the usage of multifunctional imaginary devices equipped with remote sensing platforms such as satellites. It could be agricultural airplanes, balloons, or drones, etc. So this is the collection of data first. Then second is from various types of sensors. So those that are mostly deployed for specific purpose across various. So as we'll see later in the coming few slides, there are lots of sensors. Temperature will have one sensor, pressure will have another sensor, to sense the moisture, another sensor. So lots and lots of sensors are there. So first is usage of many devices with this remote sensing platforms. Then you have many kind of sensors which will sense the different things based upon our requirement. So all these are required for precision agriculture. So these are some of the IoT based products and prototypes for smart agriculture. So here some the different equipments which could be used. Just I saw one picture and thought of just putting it. So here you have so many tools. Drone tools are there. Then you have certain sensors. So all these are different equipments which can be used in the smart farming. Okay, now coming on to, so now we have got an idea. So now we are coming to the technology part, or the different equipment parts which will be used in IoT. So now here when I am talking about the different technologies or equipments will be used in IoT. So here we'll be using any one of this. So I thought, like for example, if you're trying to implement IoT in agriculture, you, depending upon your work, what kind of work actually you're planning, based on that you can decide. Now I have already touched upon the different applications of agriculture and also advanced technology in agriculture. So you may be using any one of that. So your project will be based on any one of that, or you may be building a new farm and then you'll be applying this, whatever it is. So once you do that, the next comes, you have to think about like what kind of equipment you'll be using or what kind of technology you'll be using. So that again depends upon your work. So now I'll be just talking about some of the sensors you must have heard upon. So one is called the acoustic sensors. Now here, now this appliance offers a miscellaneous appliance in farm management, including soil cultivation, weeding, fruit harvesting, etc. So in all these cases, this acoustic sensors may be of great help. Now, main benefit of this technology is its low-cost solution with fast response when considering portable equipment. So it is very portable, and it will give you a very low-cost solution. Its function is by measuring the change in the noise, as it is acoustic sensor. So acoustic is nothing but sound. So here we are measuring the change in the noise level. So it is by the change in the noise level that it is measuring the whatever required. Now, as we said, it could be like soil cultivation, weeding, fruit harvesting, etc. In all this, it will be measuring the change in the noise level. as it interacts with other materials like soil particles. So based on that, it will have the resultant acoustic output. So based on that, we can do the corresponding measurement. So commonly used for pest monitoring and detection, and also classifying the seed varieties according to their sound absorption spectra. So it is also used for pest monitoring. So every pest will have certain kind of sounds, right? The different pests which attacks different plants will have different kind of sounds. Based on this acoustic sensors, we can actually find out what kind of pest is the one which is attacking that particular plant. Then another sensor is something called field programmable gate array based sensors, of FPGA based sensors. What are these sensors? So the main advantage of these sensors is this is used in agriculture recently due to the flexibility of reconfiguration. We can reconfigure this particular sensor very easily, it seems, and hence it is used in agriculture. So basically it is used for real-time plant transpiration, irrigation, and humidity. So these are some of the applications of this particular sensor. And again, the little bit of disadvantage of the sensor is it is just in the early stage of the usage. And this is because of its limitation, like its size, because it is a gate array, cost, and power consumption. So because of this, the usage of this FPGA based sensors is little less. And these sensors require more power. As we said, the one of the disadvantages is power consumption. It takes more power. And it is not suitable for continuous monitoring. As it takes more power, we cannot monitor something. We cannot use this FPGA array for FPGA sensors for a long time because it is using more of power. And as we said, cost is high and even compromising on performance. So definitely, if it has to run for a long time, if you have to keep the sensor for a long time, it is not applicable, because one is power consumption, another is it is very costly. So because of this, it is not much preferable many times. Another one is optical. So when you say optical, definitely it may be using lights, right? So sensors use light reflectance phenomena, and it is basically used to help to measure soil organic substances or soil moisture and color, presence of minerals, and the composition, clay content, etc. So these are some of the uses of optical sensors. So with respect to soil, you can measure its, you can find its color, or you can measure the organic substances which are present in soil, what are the different minerals which are present in soil, what are the composition of that, whether it does have any clay content. So all those things can be very easily studied by using the optical sensor. These sensors test the soil's ability to reflect light based on different parts. So definitely, obviously, since it is called optical sensors, so it has to do something with light. So here, basically, it is measuring how much light is reflected back, okay, after touching that particular substance. So based on the electromagnetic spectrum, we know in the different wavelength. So based on that, we can measure the different properties. Now, changes occurred in wave reflections help to indicate the changes in soil density and other parameters. So fluorescence, actually, I have one picture in the last slide where actually some fluorescence is shown. So obviously, they must have used this optical sensor, because they have used drone and they have taken the picture of an entire farm. And each of that different place is actually colored in different colors. So definitely they must have used this optical sensor. So fluorescence-based optical sensors are used for basic plant assessment, especially to supervise fruit maturation also. The color of the plant changes when it is ripened and when it is raw. So based on the different colors, so that again you can use optical sensors which will help us to detect the color of the plant, and then we can find out whether it is time to pluck the plant, take that particular fruit or not. So there we can use this optical sensor. Then another one is called something called ultrasonic ranging sensors. So here this is a good choice, being low cost, potential to operate in a variety of application. And some of the common uses of this particular sensor is tank monitoring or spray distance measurement. That is to it performs uniform spray coverage. Okay, so when you use this particular sensor, then object detection, collision avoidance, monitoring crop canopy. Canopy is actually the top portion. Okay, so monitoring crop canopy. So all this could be done with the help of this ultrasonic ranging sensors. Now, when combined with a camera, these sensors can then be used for weed detection also. So where the heights of plants are identified using the ultrasonic sensors. So ultrasonic sensors should be combined with a camera. So here you can, for example, you must be like when you have a farm, there may be weeds which may be coming in between, right? So you have to plug the weeds. So when it is a large farm, acres of farm, so to do it manually, it's not possible. Okay, so here what we have to do is you have to use these sensors combined with a camera. So it will identify the weed. Okay, and based on the where the heights of plants are identified using the ultrasonic sense. So usually the weeds grow very large, right? So in between the plants you may have weeds. So this weeds has to be plugged out. So how do you see the weeds over here? By measuring the heights of the plants, and that will figure out where are the weeds, and that weeds will be colored or whatever. That could be easily plugged later. Then another one is optoelectronic sensors. So this can differentiate plant type, as we have seen the optical sensors in the previous one. This also can detect weeds, herbicides, and other unwanted plants in between the crops. So in between the crops, if these kind of plants, unwanted plants are there, you have to use certain measurement. Usually what we do is we give some to remove these weeds. Usually there are certain what do you say, like medicines which are usually put on the plants, but then that again may be not good for the other actual plants. So you have to be very careful while putting it, while spraying that. So when combining an optoelectronic sensor and location information, it can map the weed distribution and resolution. So it can find out like where exactly the weeds are and where exactly your plants are. And then you can actually use drone or whatever, and you can figure out that area where you have the weeds, and you can use that pesticides or whatever to remove the weeds. Optoelectronic sensors are capable of differentiating between vegetation and soil from the reflection spectra. So if you look at the spectra, if you look at the images, because of the optoelectronic sensors, the spectra will show the color properly. The difference between the crops and the weeds and whatever the unwanted plants, all will be shown in different color spectra. So you can easily identify them, and that could be mapped in that particular area, geographical area. Then another one is called airflow sensors. So these sensors are capable of measuring soil air permeability. So that is very, very important. You have to measure the soil air permeability and what is the percentage of moisture which is present in the soil, and identify the soil structure to find out like what type of soil it is. So because each soil that you have this red soil, black soil, and different kind of muddy soil, etc. So you have to figure out what kind of soil it is. So you can use this airflow sensors for that. Measurement can be made at singular locations or dynamically while in motion. Example can be used on a fixed position or in a mobile mode. So the sensors can be used in different ways. Either could be used in a fixed position, or it can be in the movement mode also. Whichever mode, you can use this airflow sensors and find out the soil property. So the desired output is the pressure required to push a predetermined amount of air. What is the amount of air which has to be pushed in? So that could be measured by using this airflow sensors. Because here we are basically measuring the soil air permeability. Okay, so for that we have to push the amount of air. So that again we can find out through the airflow sensors. Then another one is something called electrochemical sensors. That's what I haven't heard of this many sensors. So when I was today exploring, then I figured out that there are so many sensors depending upon our need. You just have to explore it and figure out, and then find out from your from the corresponding companies whether those sensors are available, and then you have to use that particular sensor along with all the other materials required to establish an IoT. So this electrochemical sensor, if you look upon, they are mostly used to assess the significant soil characteristics, to analyze the soil nutrient levels such as pH. If suppose you are more concerned about to find out the pH value or whatever of the soil, then you can use this electrochemical sensors. So standard chemical soil analysis, which are mostly, you can use the soil analysis, right? You can actually, you can take the soil and give it to a particular lab, and you can identify like what are the different nutrients present in the soil. But all these are very costly, right? Mostly expensive and time consuming. You may not get in a day, because you have to depend upon others, as well as it will consume time, it will consume money, etc. So this can be easily substituted with the sensors. You just need to use the sensors, and this can be used many times. You don't have to go each and every time to the lab to get the result. Okay, so here you can use the sensors. One spot can be used many times. So to be more precise, the macro and micronutrients in the soil, salinity and pH are measured using sensors of this nature. So those, again, if suppose you are a good farmer or you know about farming, so you these all are very important things in soil. What are the amount of salinity present in the soil, because salinity again is a problem. Too much of salinity is also a problem. Then pH, what is the pH value, acidity, basicity, etc. That also has to be measured. So all this can be very easily measured using this electrochemical sensors, instead of taking your soil to the lab, soil testing lab, and finding out like what is the amount of pH, or what is the pH value of your soil, or what is the amount of different nutrients present in your soil. So electrochemical sensors can be utilized for that purpose. Another one is something called electromagnetic sensors. Now, what are these electromagnetic sensors? So here, even I had bit confusion like what is this electromagnetic sensor? So this is basically, it records the electrical conductivity and electromagnetic response. Also identify the electrical response, and we can also adjust the variable rate application in the actual application. So here, these sensors, they use electrical circuits to measure the capability of soil particles. Okay, whether the soil particles can conduct or accumulate electrical charge. Actually, the soil sometimes is loose or tight, it seems. So is the soil loose or is the soil tight? So that also matters to some extent. So those actually can be studied using this electromagnetic sensors. So that is by either by contact or non-contact with the soil. So also, in addition to that, in addition to find out whether the soil is loose or tight, we can also find out the presence of nitrates and organic matters in the soil also with this. So that's what sometimes what happens is, when you talk about some sensors, 2-3 sensors may be doing almost similar role, but one sensor, like we have already seen finding out the different nutrients, we can use different sensors. So this one, in addition to that, finding the residual nitrates and also organic matter, in addition to the finding whether the soil is loose or tight. So you have some extra properties of soil learned in this using this electromagnetic sensors. So as I said, I have this mentioned many sensors here. You have to figure out which are the sensors you have to use. Then you have to buy those sensors, and then you have to do the programming accordingly in your Arduino, whatever. So like, how do you read this data from this? Then you have this mechanical sensors. Now, this helps to assess the soil mechanical resistance or compaction to indicate the variable level of compaction. So this is another sensor which will help to again study the soil mechanical resistance. So they enter or cut through the soil and record the force assessed by strain gauges or load cells. So these particular sensors, they're inserted into the soil. Okay, they insert into the soil. A pressure unit is used to measure the soil's mechanical resistance, which is actually the ratio of the force needed to go into the soil medium using the frontal part of the tool, actually engage with the soil. So this actually helps to study the resistance given by the soil, soil mechanical resistance, or otherwise called compaction. That can be again studied by this mechanical resistance. Just a minute. Okay. Now coming with another sensor, which is something called mass flow sensors. Now this is used for yield monitoring. So as it provides the yield information by measuring the amount of grain flow. So there are sensors. So this actually, even I was even I didn't know about this mass flow sensors, because we can actually, by taking the data, as we have said some time back, by taking the data, we can do the data analysis and predict the yield. That we can do one way. Then, but even sensors are available. Even sensors are available, which will help for the yield monitoring. Okay, so here this is the most critical component. But overall, the yield monitoring system consists of other modules like grain moisture sensor, data storage device, and an internal software to analyze the data. Obviously, because how do you do the yield prediction? For yield prediction, definitely there should be some software which will actually manipulate this. So here in this mass flow sensors, you have that. It has a data storage device and it has an internal software to analyze the data, and based on that, it will does the yield monitoring. Then something called eddy covariance based sensors. So this is another important concept in while doing the farming. It is used for quantifying exchanges of carbon dioxide, water vapor, methane or other gases, and energy between the surface of earth and atmosphere. So what are the exchange of gas which is happening between the earth and atmosphere? The exchange. So if one is high, another has to be low. Some ratio is to be maintained. So that actually will be measured by this eddy covariance based sensors. So this method offers an accurate way to measure surface temperature fluxes of energy and trace gas fluxes over variety of ecosystems, for most importantly agricultural applications. So the different ratio of the gases which has to be present between the surface and the atmosphere, it matters a lot in the agricultural production. So that again, you can do that measurement using this eddy covariance based sensors and do the regulation. Then another one is called SWLB sensors, soft water level based sensors. So that's what, if I have, I think I have put around 20 sensors. So all these sensors you can just, whenever you are writing a project or trying to implement this, you can figure out what are the sensors which you will be using. So I don't think all the sensors will be required, but basically depends upon, like if suppose you are interested to study the pest diseases. So we have some sensors for that. So if suppose you are more interested to study the yield management or the yield production, yield. So there for that you may have to require certain, like we have to use that eddy based this one, and also whatever the soil thing which we have to, like if it is more related to soil, you have so many sensors which actually tells the soil content, the different nutrients present in the soil, the air moisture content, etc. So depending upon your usage, you have to use the corresponding sensor. Now this sensor, that is a soft water level based sensor, is utilized in agricultural catchments to characterize hydrological behavior, because we are talking about water, such as water level and flow at adjustable time step acquisition. So what is the water level? So that you can actually measure through this soft water level based sensors. So this is done by measuring rainfalls, stream flows, and other water presence options. So in that particular area, how much is the water? Like you suppose there's a stream flowing over there, or there is enough rainfall in that particular area. So all this will be taken into consideration to figure out, like to figure out the water level of that area. So the soft water level based sensor will do those kind of things, water level. Then light detection and ranging, obviously it is more concerned with respect to light. Okay, so it is used in a range of applications such as land mapping, segmentation, finding the soil type, three-dimensional modeling of the farm, monitoring erosion and soil loss, yield forecasting. In all these areas, this LIDAR is used. So LIDAR is basically used to obtain dynamic measurement information regarding fruit tree leaf area, and when combined with GPS, it can produce a three-dimensional map. So the entire, if suppose you are using a LIDAR with a drone in an area, so it will actually tell you, like which are the areas which are having more of vegetation, which are not having vegetation, and etc. etc. So this technology is most often used when estimating the biomass of various crops and trees. So in that, for calculating the biomass, we can use this LiDAR. Telematic sensors, as the name says, something with telecommunication, right? So when you use these telematic sensors, it is helping to communicate between two places. Okay. For example, among two vehicles when considering the agricultural based applications. Okay, so like for example, telemetry sensors are used to collect data from remote locations, usually when it is inaccessible. Okay, it's very remote area, and so in that area you can use this telematic sensors to the vehicles attached over there, and operations of machines that report on how the components are working. If suppose you just want to figure out like how the things are working over there, so instead of going to that place directly, you can use this telematic sensor, and you can figure out like how the components at that particular place is working. You can record the location and also travel routes to avoid visiting the same patch. For example, if you're trying to put fertilizer, so instead of putting the fertilizer in the same place again and again, you can use a telematic sensor to figure out that same area is not covered again and again. So that fertilizer is not put in the same area again and again. So you can use telematic sensor to avoid doing that. So these services enable farm managers to record and store all information related to farm operations automatically, which maximizes the utilization of environmental benefits, further can minimize threats from farm equipment theft, etc. So if suppose since the telematic sensor is attached to that, even theft of that particular, if it is a tractor or whatever, if you are using a telematic sensor on that, if it is stolen by a thief, you can easily figure out. Okay, so that can be located. Then remote sensing, as the name says, sensing something remotely. Sensors belong to this category, is used to capture and store the geographical information, further analyze, manipulate, manage, and all the types of spatial data or geographical data. So that is what is remote sensing. You know remote sensing. So it is trying to gather data from a remote area where it is difficult to reach. Similar to LiDAR, these sensors are have significant use in agricultural applications, including crop assessment, forecasting yield dates, yield modeling, identification of plants and pests, land cover, and degradation mapping. In all these areas, this remote sensing. So remote sensing, again, satellites and all these particular sensors could be used to study the areas where it is not, generally we cannot cover that particular area. So these are all wireless sensors which we have now touched upon. So many sensors we have seen. So all these based on your particular need, you can use the different sensors. Now coming on to the next sensor, which is called the IoT based tractors. So you have already heard about the tractors. So as rural labor resources have started to come under stress, since the industry is being expanded, we know that we have been using heavy machinery to enter. Heavy machinery has entered the agricultural sector. Okay, so when you talk about an tractor and all, the number of times it is more productive than a farm. It's obviously many times higher. Okay, now with the advancement of technology, most of these manufacturers are offering tractors which are automatic driven and even cloud computing capabilities. So now, yes, in the beginning, in the traditional agriculture, it was manual labor. Slowly, when you have more and more of in the farm growing, in that case, you cannot go for the manual. So you have this mechanization coming in where tractors were introduced. And so those were really more productive. But then now with the advancement of technology, these tractors are now automatic driven, and also they are having the facility of cloud computing also. Now, one of the main advantages of the self-driving tractors is the ability to avoid revisiting the same area. Because if suppose manually it's not possible at all, but even when you're doing the normal tractor, so sometimes what happens is that driver may go to that same area again and again. So these things could be avoided if you're using this automatic tractor. We can have some sensors fitted over there which will help to which will help to avoid the same area being revisited again and again by reducing the overlap even less than even less than an inch. They can make very precise turns without a driver's physical response. So no need of a driver, because it can be monitored, because we are monitoring with a GPS or whatever, and we can monitor and we can make it properly move through area which it has not moved. So this facility offers better precision with reduced errors, especially when spraying insecticide or targeting weeds. And these are mostly unavoidable when a human controls the machinery. So all this, like when you mechanize everything, like in the case of an IoT where you don't require any human interaction at all, obviously when you are spraying weedicides or insecticides or whatever, at that point of time, it is very, very, because when you're using this precision devices, it will only try to put insecticides or weedicides at the place where you have the weeds, where you have the unwanted plants, and also the humans are not touching that particular pesticide, so it is beneficial with all point of view. When talking about such cultured machines, that is uh, driverless machines, most farmers can't afford to own them, right? It will be very costly. Now, how to a normal farmer who have a small farm use this particular thing. Now, considering the challenge, a company called Hello Tractor has developed a solution to solve these issues. So they have developed a low-cost monitoring device, it seems, that can be placed on any tractor, which provides powerful software and analytic tools along with it, along with the sensor. So I don't know again how costly it is, whether again it is affordable by normal. It should be, these all examples are something I think related to US. So I don't know whether how much it's applicable to India, but again, we can design such tractors where it can actually, because nowadays you have this driverless car, and also that's not a problem to have a driverless tractor. But at the same time, it should be able to control this weedicides sprayed or insecticide sprayed on this unwanted plants. Now, benefits of this kind of devices are twofold. On one side, it ensures that overall cost of tractor remains affordable. At the same time, it monitors the condition of the tractor and reports if any problems occur. That's what I said. One is, it is driverless. And it is now, since companies like Hello Tractor are trying to give low, not much costly tractors. So one is it is affordable by the growers, and another one is that it monitors the condition of the tractor and reports if any problem occurs. So software connects tractor owners to farmers in need of tractor services. So whatever services is needed by the farmer, they can readily access that particular service, since through software they are connected. So that was about IoT robot. Now, next one is harvesting robot. So harvesting robot, as the name says, definitely it is helping somewhere in harvesting. Okay, how does it help? So harvesting, as you know, is the most critical stage, or we can say the final stage, last phase of crop's output. So crop is ready and you can harvest it. So again, harvesting the crop at the right time is also very critical. Okay, so you cannot do it either very early or you cannot do it late. If you do it early, again, it's not good. If you do it late, also it's not good. So in both the cases, it will affect the production significantly. When talking about the labor, it is estimated there is a major decline in crop production on a yearly basis due to labor shortage. So this is like in the beginning, before using the IoT. Now, when you have less labor, obviously, because we are depending upon the labor to do the harvesting. So when you don't have the enough labor, definitely the crop production will be less. So considering the worth of this stage and labor issues, farm experts expects that the involvement of agricultural robotics, which will may not only ease the labor pressure, but also will provide the flexibility to harvest whenever needed. So here they don't have to go and request the laborer to come for a particular day. You can use the robot whenever you want to. Okay, so that is the advantage. And also the money involved in paying the labor charge is also not there. So you have to just put one investment, one-time investment where you're buying this kind of automatic robot, and that robot can be used n number of times in your field, and there is no labor charge involved at all. Automatic harvesting of fruits requires deep investigation of sophisticated sensors. Now, again, in all this, a sensors has to be fitted by, because you have to understand when it has to be harvested. The harvesting time should be correctly predicted, and that actually matters a lot. If the prediction goes wrong, if it says that yes, it can be harvested, and actually it's not the time to harvest, or if it has told to harvest at a time when actually the time is over, that also matters. So in the case of fruits, for example, automatic harvesting requires deep investigation of sophisticated sensors that are capable of collecting precise and unambiguous information of that particular crop and fruit. Because sometimes what happens is there may be a crop which will have so many varieties, and there will be so many coloring of the ripening of fruits. So in that case, the sensor should be able to understand whether the fruit has ripened, or is it the time to harvest the fruit or not. So here it matters a lot. So you have to do a deep investigation of the whichever sensors has to be used, because the sensor should be capable enough to understand whether the crop has ripened or not. Because if there are so many colors, okay, so because I can't get an example of a plant now which will have so many colors when there are, for example, in the case of, I'm not getting any plant which will have so many colors while ripening. In the case of mango itself, okay, so you can see that the based on the colors only you have to plug the mango, harvest the mango. So the coloring matters. So you have to use a sophisticated sensor over there. Task of detecting the right target in natural scenes is not simple, since most of the fruits are occluded partially. Sometimes what happens is, like for example, if you're taking the pictures of the images, sensors where you're taking the pictures of the images, and then you have to study the pictures, and then based on that you have to um, say that yes, it has to be plugged or not. So sometimes it is partially, sometimes it is fully under the leaves or branches, or sometimes it is overlapped with the other fruits. So here what happens is, in all these cases, we are taking the pictures, and then we're using some method of computer vision or image processing and machine learning techniques to say that yes, it is time to plug the fruit or not. So if the fruit is occluded partially or fully, we are not able to see that fruit at all. So what happens is, we are not able to say that that fruit has to be plugged or not. So these also has to be overcome by using the sensors. So this process needs very specialized and sophisticated tools to differentiate the fruit condition, because especially when you are working with fruits which have so many varieties and so many colors, in all these cases, the sensor which you are using is very important. So you are using harvesting robots, but at the same time, you have to use the proper sensors which is fitted along with it. Now comes another important area, which is called communication agriculture. So till now we have seen what are the different sensors which can be used. Okay, what are the different sensors which can be used? Wireless sensors we have seen. Then we saw the IoT in the tractors, where you fit the sensors, okay, or GPS or GIS. Then we saw this harvesting robots. Now another important thing is the communication in agriculture. So that is very important. So when you talk about communication reporting the information on a timely basis is basically the backbone of precision agriculture, because precision agriculture is mainly relying on the data which it has got. So it is based on the data that it is correctly taking the decision. If the data is not received on right time, you may not give the right decision. So real purpose cannot be achieved unless a firm, reliable and secure connection among various participating objects is provided. So you have say many objects over there. So all this coordination between the object is very important. Okay, so here communication and reporting the information on a timely basis, hence it's very important. So factors like cost, coverage, energy consumption, and reliability are critical. and have to be considered before choosing the mean of communication. So here again, I'll be giving lots of example of the means of communication which you may be using. Okay, you can use any one of this when you are establishing your IoT in smart farming. So which one to use? Are you more concerned about your cost, coverage, energy consumption, or reliability? Whichever is critical, which one to use, you have to decide upon, and based on that, you have to go for your communication device. Now again, okay, before coming into that, low energy networks can provide connectivity only one side. So if suppose, so again, whenever we are saying this connectivity, if suppose you are using a connecting equipment which can connect only a small area, a low energy network, so it can provide connectivity only to one particular site and may do not offer service in remote areas where sense data need to be transmitted to the farm management system. So at that place, a slow energy network will be really a disadvantage because it may not be able to go to very remote places. Depending on the availability, scalability, and application requirements, various communication modes and technologies are being used for this purpose. So I'll just brief you with some of the common technologies which you can use. First one is cellular communication. Okay, when you talk about with cellular communication, see nowadays you have 2G, 3G, etc., 4G available. But again, when you go to remote areas, nothing is available. You have only 2G or 3G. You may not have 4G at all. Even nowadays, in many of the metros, also 4G is coming. So depending on the purpose and bandwidth requirement. Okay, so cellular communication mode, you have to see, like you have to have the best communication mode. So data transmission by satellite is another option. So instead of this cellular communication, another option is data transmission by satellite. But the problem with the satellite is the cost of this communication is very high, which makes it not suitable for a small and medium-sized farm. You are trying to establish an IoT with respect to a small-sized farm. At that area, if you try to build a communication through satellite, it will be very costly, right? It may not be feasible for you. You cannot include a satellite kind of communication in your small smart-based farming. So there you may have to use this cellular communication, either 4G. So choice of communication mode also depends on application requirements, such as some farms required sensors that can operate with low data rate but need to work for long periods, hence demand long battery life. So you have to decide. Sometimes what happens is you have to have a sensor which has to operate on low data rate, okay, but at the same time it has to work for long hours. When it has to work for long hours, it should have a long battery life. So which is the best equipment for that? Because when data is received, it has to be transmitted, right? So you should have a communication. So if the communication is gone, simply collecting the data doesn't make any sense in the real-time scenario. So you have to use such a kind of communication device. So for such scenarios, you can use something called LPWAN, low power wide area network. So this is considered a solution for cellular connectivity, especially when you are more concerned with the battery life. Not only in terms of battery life, but also larger connectivity range with affordable rates. So this LPWAN is actually very good, especially when you need a, particular communication where you have to work for long time, because obviously you should have long battery life. At the same time, it will have a larger connectivity range, and the rate is also not very high, affordable. So in all these cases, best suitable communication device is LPWAN. So like this is just, I have just put a small table which actually tells the data power specification of wireless sensors which are used in agriculture application. So I have just named the communication and data type. What are the possible applications of this particular, if suppose you are going with this particular communication device, what is the expected data size which you can transfer at this particular sensor, or this particular using this particular communication type, and what is the power consumption required. So I have just mentioned that. So obviously when you use something communication type which can handle large data and definitely will have large power consumption, it will have a major power consumption of 50 ampere. And also here you can go for video streaming cameras, because you will have lots and lots of data streaming. Okay, so that was about the cellular communication. So cellular communication, so we have seen cellular communication, especially 2G to 3G and 4G. Okay, and there you can use this LPWAN. Then there is something called Zigbee, which is again another platform where actually this is also low cost and used devices. So primarily designed for wide range of application to replace existing non-standard technologies. And this particular Zigbee protocol can be of one of the types, including coordinator, router, and end user. And this is also very low cost one. And here 3 different topologies are used: start, cluster tree, and mesh. Okay, so based on these characteristics and further considering the agricultural requirements, Zigbee play a vital role, especially targeting the greenhouse environment, because greenhouse environment, it's only a small area, right? And there you need only short range communication. So at that particular areas, you can try Zigbee kind of environment, Zigbee kind of communication devices. Another one is called Bluetooth, which you are very which you have heard, which you have used in your mobile. So it is again a wireless communication that connects small head devices together over shorter distances, usually cooperating in a close proximity. But in Bluetooth, you always have a always distance is always important. You cannot have Bluetooth connectivity for a longer distance. So it is usually used in close proximity. So due to its advantages of low power requirement, so definitely low, even Zigbee also has low power requirement. Okay, I forgot to tell you that. Low power requirement, and it is also low cost. So here also this is having low power requirement, easy to use, low cost. And this technology is being utilized in many smart farming applications. Again, the distance should be very small. That's what I said. When you're trying to use or figure out which communication technology you have to use, you have to think about what is the area where you're applying your smart farming. Can you go with your Zigbee? Can you go with Bluetooth, or can you go with cellular communication or whatever? So Bluetooth making advancement in many IoT systems with the release of Bluetooth low energy, or also called as Bluetooth Smart. So the reason for choosing this Bluetooth low energy for communication purpose is due to its inherent support for smartphone accessibility. So because of the smartphone accessibility, Bluetooth is more used. But again, the proximity of area is important. Then something called LoRa. What is this? This is again a wireless technology, but this is not a short area. This is long range and low power again, but used extensively in IoT applications. Since it is long range, it is a bit different from Zigbee and Bluetooth and all which we were talking about. So here, since it is long range, if you have a smart farming which is covered in a long area, I mean long range area, you can definitely go for LoRa. Being low in power consumption, it offers LPWAN connectivity between wireless sensors and the cloud. Okay, low power wide area network. So between sensors and cloud, so you can use this LoRa. It has proved itself much more effective and reliable than Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, etc. It can penetrate. So another main advantage of LoRa is these signals can penetrate thick and insulated objects, even buildings, and hence can cover a larger network area. So obviously, if suppose I think you should try it. If suppose we are using a larger area, we can go for LoRa maybe. Okay, so always you have to work it out and see. This performs higher in terms of lifespan also, that is added advantage, and at the same time pose reduced maintenance and upkeep burden. So that again, all these are positive advantages of LoRa, because one is it is low cost, larger range, don't have to go for much maintenance, okay, and more lifespan. So presents a system to achieve information traceability in the grain transport system, for example, to ensure the food quality by monitoring the temperature and humidity levels. So for the grain transport systems, when you're transporting grain from one place to another, you can actually use this particular communication technology, because this will achieve information traceability because it can cover long range, right? So this will ensure food quality by monitoring the temperature and humidity level, because when you're traveling, when the material, when the grains or whatever it is transported from one place to another, obviously the temperature, humidity, etc. will vary. So this has to be monitored when the food particles are taken from one place to another. So there you can use these particular kind of communication devices. There another one is Sigfox. This is again low powered. It is used to provide network connectivity to low powered objects. Okay, so it is based on narrowband or ultra narrowband technology. So here, it takes very narrow chunks of spectrum and changes the phase of the carrier rate wave to encode the data. So the distance is actually not told, but then I think it will cover more than the earlier one, because it offers high level performance, and even if 100 sensors need to transmit the data at the same time, you can use Sigfox itself. So the amount of information which can be transmitted. Okay, so the previous one which we were talking about, LoRa, here the amount of information which can be transferred, they have not told about, but it can cover a larger range. So here Sigfox, the advantage is it can carry more information. Okay, so the communication of information depends. So here, if suppose you are using 100 sensors also, it offers a high level performance. That is, it doesn't misses out some data. So that is the added advantage of Sigfox. So this is like the different layers have been told here. So you have this, this is the source. Okay, so you have the different sensors. So you have, this is a sensing layer, we can say, where you get the data from the different sensors. So from there, the data from the sensing layer, the data, the data. Somebody's mic is. Okay, fine. So here you can see that you have the sensing layer where the data from the ground through sensors, it is transferred to the bridge layer where you have the different communication devices which we are talking about. It could be Zigbee, Wi-Fi, RFID, I have not talked about, then Bluetooth or whatever. So the data is transmitted through drone or whatever to the cloud. Okay, it could be either it is going to the database or it is going to the end user. So end-to-end communication for smart farming. Just I have put a picture over there. Then, so now we were talking about wireless cellular communication. We talked about Zigbee. Then we talked about Bluetooth. Then we talked about LoRa. Okay. Then we talked about Sigfox. Now something called smartphones. So mobile phones are a very common source and primary mode of communication now, because everyone is using it, and primary mode of communication whenever the need arises to contact or update most of the farming community. So this is very widely used smartphones. Now recently the smartphone industry is growing, and also the price of the smartphones are decreasing, and you know that almost all the facility are available in a smartphone. Okay, so and it is almost available with almost all the farmers, I would say, because the cost is very much reduced. The flexibility and functionality, such as the camera, GPS, microphone accelerometer, proximity gyroscope, attract the IT experts, and they are developing more appealing mobile apps that consider the farmers' various needs. So there are so many mobile applications which are developed, which can be used by using this smartphones. So that is another communication device. So smartphone-based sensors that are being used in various agriculture applications. So as I said, since smartphones are growing rapidly and the prices are also coming down, and it has a lot more facilities. So there are so much of sensors which are already fitted in smartphones and already available. So these are just example of some of the sensors which are fitted in smartphones: image sensors, GPS, microphone, accelerometer, gyroscope, barometer. So this, and what is the purpose of those sensors? So these are all already some smartphone will have all these sensors, and based on that we can use for various applications. So these are already there, and some farmers can already use it based on the small areas. Okay, now next one is cloud computing. So cloud computing, I don't know whether majority of you, since if you all of you are in with respect to computer science, so all must have heard about cloud computing. Nowadays, instead of storing our information in our personal machines, we try to store information in the cloud. Okay, so precision agriculture is showing its potential and benefits by improving agricultural operation through better data-driven decision making. So that's what precision agriculture is. As we said, in precision agriculture, what are we basically doing? We are collecting the data with respect to sensors or drones or whatever it is, and we are trying to improve the decisions which we are taking by the different data which are present. Okay, so to continue the success, precision agriculture not only requires better technology and tools to process data efficiently, but also at a reasonable cost, such that received data can be used to make field decision efficiently. Because see, in the real time, lot of data are generated, right? When lots and lots of data are generated, these data has to be saved somewhere, or it has to be you should have some database to store those data, so that we can do analytics on the data and we can work out and we can come out with better precisions. So definitely cloud is the one which is actually helping for all this. So precision agriculture, definitely when you talk about precision agriculture is depending upon huge amount of data. Just a minute. Precision agriculture requires technology which will help in generating lots of data, and at the same time, using those data, we have to go for better precision by building predictive models. So for these purpose, farmers can use cloud services to access information from predictive analytics, so that they can choose the right product available according to the specific requirements. So here you can go for predictive analytics. So when I say cloud, so whatever, for example, you are generating the data from the sensors, these data from the sensors has to be read, and it has to be transmitted to the cloud. From the cloud, you have to generate, first of all, you have to pre-process the data, or you have to convert the data to the required format. Then you have to pre-process the data. Then you create a machine learning model out of it, create a predictive model. So you have a predictive analytics over there. Once the predictive analytics is done, then you can pass on the result to the user. Okay, so these things could be done with the help of the cloud services. So cloud computing offers an edge to farmers to use knowledge-based repositories. Okay, because you have knowledge-based repositories in the cloud. When you have lots and lots of real-time data which is generated, those are getting deposited in these repositories that contain a treasure of information. So when you have huge amount of big data getting generated over there, that can be analyzed and predictive analytics can be done out of it, and experiences related to farming practices as well as on equipment options available in the market with the necessary details. So for all these cases, cloud computing will help a lot to the farmers. Now, cloud-based services offer opportunities to explore advancement, but it comes with some new challenges. Okay, when you say cloud-based services, definitely, as I said, cloud-based services helps the farmers a lot with respect to predictive analytics, with respect to choosing the correct equipment, or whether they should harvest at this particular time, etc., or what is the yield of their particular farm, etc. But there are going to be some challenges. What are the challenges? There are going to be two challenges. The first, let's say, a vast range of sensors are being developed. As I have already discussed, there are lots and lots of sensors, and they are used in precision agriculture. Each one has its own data format and semantics. That is one problem, because when you are transferring this data, you are getting the data, input data from the sensors. These data has to be communicated to the cloud. So when it goes to the cloud, all will be in different formats. So that is again a challenge. Second, most of the decision support system are application specific. While on the other hand, a farmer can be in the need of accessing various systems for a specific application, example soil monitoring. As I said, the decision support systems are all application specific, right? If you have to do the pressure monitoring, your sensor is different. If you have to do for soil monitoring, the this one is different, sensor is different. So all decision support systems are application specific, so that again becomes a challenge for the farmer. Okay, so these are the two challenges. So in the cloud-based services, when it offers different services, these are the different things which has to be checked upon. So one is the different formats, the input formats that you have, and also there are lots and lots of decision support systems based on your application requirement. Then considering both of these cases, the cloud-based decision support system not only handle the diversity of data, as I said, each census will have different data and the formats, but also must be able to configure these formats for different applications. So cloud-based decision support system should be able to do all this. First, it should be able to handle this diversity of data. At the same time, it should be able to configure these formats for the different applications. So cloud-based services are able to do all those things. So here, so this is just an example. Like you have the agriculture IoTs. So it is going to, so here the cloud-based services is actually divided into three. You have something called edge, mist, fog, and cloud. So I'm not going to explain in detail about this, but here this edge computing is very important. Why this edge computing is important? Because this is actually, when you talk about this edge computing from the picture itself, it's very clear, I hope. So in the in the edge computing itself, you have all the facilities which are available in the cloud. It's available in the edge, and this is very remote, very closely attached to the source. So this is basically this edge computing, we could say, is a distributed computing paradigm. It's a distributed computing paradigm only, but it brings the computation as well as the data storage closer to the data source. If you look at the picture, so in the previous one, see, this edge is always nearer to this. If you look at the cloud, it has to go through edge, mist, fog, and then reaches the cloud. And this cloud will have all the services. It will have service as SAS, it will have IaaS, it will have storage as services, etc. But almost all the services are available in the edge also. That is called edge computing. So basically, with the help of edge, usually it is the edge computing which is more used in the IoT now. So edge computing, it improves the response time as well as the bandwidth, right? Because it is very much attached to the source. And also, one of the main advantage of this edge computing is when it is transferring the data from the source to the cloud, this actually blocks the sensitive data. All the data are not transferred, only the required data are transferred. Okay, and so the less transfer of sensitive data at the source. So that also could be controlled at the edge. Okay, and so basically, again, if you talk about edge computing in detail, it should go for another class. So edge computing also has 4 different types. So one is called the cloud, another one is called the device edge, another one is called the compute edge, and finally is the sensor. So there are 4 part in edge computing also. So anyway, you just remember this, that edge computing is more often used in agriculture IoT. So this edge computing itself will have all the facilities as that we have in cloud. Now finally coming on to UAVs in agriculture. So UAVs are drones. So IoT has made remarkable progress in many industries. Okay. Now, in the beginning also we have told that IoT is almost used in wide varieties of areas, but particularly it is more often used in agriculture. The communication facilities like base stations or Wi-Fi are very limited, which prevent the growth of IoT in this sector. So such communication infrastructure and related facilities, when you especially compare in the case of developing countries or rural areas especially, you have all these hurdles when you implement IoT in agriculture industry, because you don't have Wi-Fi over there, or you don't have communication facilities like base stations over there. So any kind of communication technologies at that point may not work. So to implement, for example, when you particularly think of India, where you have in the remote areas, you don't have proper cellular communication. You don't have 2D, 3D, etc. to go for the simple cellular communication. You cannot think of Bluetooth. You cannot think of anything of that sort. So how to implement IoT in such kind of areas? So data acquired through wireless sensors cannot be transmitted in the absence of reliable communication, obviously. So when you don't have proper connectivity in all these areas, how will you transmit the different data? So in such a scenario, UAV offer an alternative as they visit and communicate with the wireless sensors spread over large areas in order to harvest data for further processing and analysis. So in such areas, what we can do is we can use drones which are having this wireless sensors. Okay, so which are better known as drones. They are fitted with high resolution cameras and whatever sensors which we want to use, as we have discussed about certain sensors, we have certain sensors over there and it can be flown over thousands of hectares of farms. So these sensors will take those informations. The role of surveillance in agriculture application is highly critical, because if suppose we are trying to cover a particular farm, an area. So here the surveillance is very important, because we are actually we have that particular full area covered. So the role of surveillance in agriculture application is highly critical, and crop monitoring due to the need to cover large areas. Fast, low cost, real time, and large scale surveillance supported with an accurate data acquisition and transmission facility is crucial for agricultural production, isn't it? So these are all important. It should be fast. It should be the data collection should be fast, real time, low cost, and large scale. Or the whole thing should be covered. So quality of images definitely depends upon what is the camera which is attached to that particular drone. Okay, so it is normally dozen of times better than satellite images, because satellite images are taking the images from very far off. Okay, so that will be definitely, when you compare an image which is taken from satellite and one which is taken from drone, matters. It has a lot of differences. So UAV, this drone supports faster and better way to assess crop conditions like weed mapping or leaf assessment, etc., and provide immediate feedback so that farmers can take short timely action. So these are considered the future of precision agriculture and are generating the highest revenue among all the agricultural robots developed for precision agriculture. So in this case, these drones can, because it is a wireless sensor which is attached, we'll get the information very soon, and based on that, the farmers can take the action fast. Okay, so these are some of the, this is fixed one, and this is with the multiple rotor, we can see. You have, and this is fixed wing, only 2 wings are there. In this case, you have multiple. So these are just example of different drones. Now, drones I have not much explained, because drones collect information through the light reflected by the ground, which is maneuvering over either from soils or plants. And you have to use specific cameras and sensors depending upon what kind of interest the farmer is actually using that drone. It could be thermal or hyperspectral. Thermal will help to recognize the water quantity, etc. And then hyperspectral, when you talk about, it will record the wavelength of both visible and invisible light. So depending upon, so these are basically are present in all, like now which one he has to concentrate on, thermal or hyperspectral, the person who is using the drone has to decide. This reflected light is used to distinguish various plant types, ultimately helping to detect the unwanted herbicide and weeds. But depending upon like what kind of sensors you have used, and based on the cameras and those things, the drones will give you the output. Now here, this is an example. So this is what I was telling in the beginning, somewhere I have told. Now the fluorescent colors, see one drone which has taken a picture after the surveillance. So this is actually, the NDVI is actually the normalized difference vegetation index. NDVI, this is called. The water stress map, NDVI measures. So here you can see that when it has taken the picture, it has given the different colors. So wherever it is white, it is simple soil. This is high stressed soil. This is mild stressed soil, and this is well watered soil. So it has properly given the aerial coverage, and based on this, then they can further do whatever has to be done. Now the key areas where drone can be applied is, so some of the areas so which it can be applied. I have not gone detail, have stopped drone over here. So soil and field analysis, irrigation, planting, crop monitoring, counting the number of plants which can be grown, and also the gap detection between the plants, whether to spray pesticides, herbicides for removing the weeds, etc., to assess the health of the plants. Then finding or detecting and recognizing of the plant species, etc. So these are the various areas where drone can be applied. So drone is really another a very good thing which can be used with respect to precision agriculture. Now coming on to the last part. So now why this IoT in agriculture is very much promoted nowadays is we know throughout the world the population is rising like anything. So we need food, right? We have to feed around 25% more mouths until 2050, it seems, as compared to the present. So definitely we have to increase our production. At the same time, the food quality also matters. And another thing is transporting the existing available food safety. So all these are an important concern.
Hello, madam.
Yeah.
Can we wind up the session?
Yeah,
It's
it's
already
over. It's over. It's almost over.
16:23.
It's over. Yeah.
Okay.
So, according to the United Nations FAO, Food Agriculture and Food Agriculture Organization, and even with respect to sorry, just a minute. So, in all these cases, basically they are talking about how to manage, how to have more productivity of food. So, for all this, definitely we need to include such kind of mechanization in our sector. So implementing an automatic method that uses wireless sensors or anything of such sort, IoT methods, will try to increase our food productivity, as well as also will help to increase food safety, because food safety also we can do with respect to IoT, which I have touched upon somewhere. So with respect to all this, I would like to conclude is IoT definitely in India also we should try to bring in IoT with respect to our agriculture sector, because we know that our livelihood is basically dependent on agriculture. Okay, so definitely we have to try to incorporate IoT and also bring in precision farming. So these are the different things which I have touched upon today. So okay, I'll try to wind up now. So first let me thank you first for patient listening. Okay, any kind of questions I can take, I mean, with respect to my presentation.
Participants, if you have any queries, you can ask now.
Basically, I have touched upon, like, if suppose you are interested to write a project in IoT in agriculture, precision farming, what are the different things which you have to take care while writing the project? So I feel all these are very, very important, which you have to include in your project. So that's what, when you write a project with respect to IoT, so many things has to be taken care of.
There's a question.
Yeah.
How it can help in data-driven decision making, Dr. Ashish KS.
So see, data-driven decision making, that's what the precision farming is. Data-driven, definitely when we are collecting the data. Okay, for example, from the drone, when we are collecting the data, real-time data, and it is through the real-time data that, as I said, when it goes to the cloud, we can develop a model over there, and then we can take decision based on the data. So we have the data, when we get the data from the cloud, we can go for the data analytics over there. And with respect to data analytics, whatever the class it is, we can give that particular class to the user. Like, for example, whether he's having high yield or low yield. So based on the data, he can get the answer, and that could be given to the user. So it is a data-driven decision making.
Okay. Another query is, ma'am, I am doing research in precision agriculture using IoT. Which algorithm can be used in machine learning for data collection from the field to get more accuracy? Or I can use deep learning algorithm, leaf disease identification for groundnut crop. That is the problem.
You can definitely go for deep learning only, because in deep learning, since you have more of images, since you are having more of images, you are working with respect to leaf diseases, right? So obviously the data will be more of images. So definitely deep learning is more suitable than machine learning.
Another query is how cost efficient is this implementation, especially for small scale farmers?
Okay, so say with regard to the cost, if you say, as I said, if suppose you have to go for a small smart farming, definitely you have to buy in sensors. Okay, so you have to involve this one finance with respect to the sensors, and also like the if the data generated has, you have to get some. Now if suppose it's a small one, I don't think much you have to, for example, maybe 10K or so, because depending upon what kind of sensors you're going to install. Okay, based on the sensors, you will have to put your money over there, and then installation of the sensors, and that's it. So that is with respect to small scale farming. Okay. In the other case, when you have lots and lots of data generated, obviously you have to go for cloud and Amazon Web Services, etc. So that will involve more of money involved. But in small scale, the sensors which you require.
Okay, I think we have no more queries now. So on behalf of our institute and on behalf of the coordinators, my co-coordinator NC Sam Matthew and myself, we thank you, Dr. Hemalatha, for delivering a session on this IoT for smart farming. So
Okay.
she covered the entire aspect of this IoT. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And definitely I'll share the slides with you, ma'am. Okay, I'll
Okay.
send you within another half an hour. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tomorrow we okay.
So tomorrow we will meet again at morning 9:30. We have sessions, 2 technical sessions we have, and then we will have a non-technical session also, because that is part of the ADAL FDP curriculum. So tomorrow we'll meet at 9:30 a.m. in the morning.
One request, in afternoon session we have NEP, National Education Policy 2020 is the topic for discussion. So you can share your views or your practices already started for implementing this NEP 2020 in your institution. So please cooperate. Thank you.
Tomorrow morning session will be the ARM, taken by the ARM University program, and then we have agriculture app development by Dr. Anida Kumari from CPCRI. Then we will have the NEP 2020 session by Dr. Abraham T. Matthew, Professor M.R. Bacillus College of Engineering, Toronto. So meet you all tomorrow. Thank you.